So yeah, it's like my name is Amit, and I'm contributing to Meshery from last 10, 11 months. So yeah, I have really deep knowledge of like how Meshery UI was working, but like my major contribution was in the Meshery UI. So you will going to get a lot of insight for the Meshery UI. Yeah, let's start it. So first, like, what is the Meshery UI and what are the things that in the Meshery UI and what are the outside of the Meshery UI? So Meshery is a really extensible project. So we have couple of other part of the Meshery that is an extension point that it is like the plugin with our Meshery UI, and we show to the in our UI. Like if we go to the playground.meshery.io, where we it is like the basic version of the Meshery UI. So by having the extensibility, we have pro- providers like the local provider and the remote provider, and we can create our own provider as well. Like if you able to see any this sort of UI, then it is meant to be the selection of the provider. The non-provider was like the local provider. What is the local provider mean? So it is like if I don't want to give my any account to the Mesri and I just want to sign in, and I don't want to sign in with my account, and I just want to perform some action within the Mesri, then we can select the non-provider. It is like the short-lived. We don't store any data if we going to the non-provider. So it is like the we can browse to the incognito. It is like the incognito for the Mesri UI. And the next provider was the Mesri. It is like the remote provider. So for the accessing to remote provider, we you have to create your account with the Mesri, and you can access all of the information like the identity access management if you want to share with any teams, workspace, organization like the other Google Drive, and those sort of UI provides like the identity access management we can get through the remote provider. And also with the remote provider, we get a lot of other stuff like the collaboration and the catalog and other sharing with the other person. So this is a difference between the local and the remote provider. This is like the first step. If we building the Mesri UI, then we have to choose either we go to the local provider and the remote provider. And also we have some extension point like the canvas, collaborator, user reference provider. This the extension point means it is not the written in directly with the Mesri UI code base. It is like the written in the different repository, and we fetch those code in the JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and we plug in with the Mesri UI. And so and combined with the Mesri UI, like one of our major and most usable extension point was the canvas that you can show in the canvas tab. And also we have like the collaborator. If you see in the header, we have the nice avatars of the user that currently use the Mesri UI. It is like the real time. If any user join, then we saw the user avatar in the header. And like the provider UI is the this UI. It is also in the it is like the extension point that plug in with the Mesri UI. So some of like the canvas collaborator, and those are the not in the Mesri repo. It is like the private repository that you need. If you want to contribute, then you need some level of the permission. Like the Vivek mentioned, we have some invite only program where you will get those access for that repo, and you can contribute to those extension point. And yeah, that was all like. And also we have the anonymous user experience for the canvas as well. Like if you select the none provider in the Mesri, then we don't show you the able to access the canvas. So if you want to canvas, we have the canvas.new, and you without any sign in and without any user permission, you can access that canvas UI. Obviously there will be certain limitation for those because you not sign in as a user. So this is all of the basic general architecture of the Mesri UI, that how it communicate with the local, remote, and what are the extension point. And next with like what are the major library that the Meshery we use in the Meshery UI. So the Meshery UI is built in the top of React and Next.js, like the standard UI framework that nowadays all of the use, and it is currently in the JavaScript we are using, and also we use the Redux toolkit for like managing the store. In the current version we use combined like the context API and the Redux toolkit, both like the context API for the short term state management, and the Redux toolkit for the global state management. And also we use the leverage the Redux toolkit project and use the Redux toolkit query for getting the CRUD operation. So Redux toolkit query was known as like the RTK query is, it, it will give some of the other benefits like the caching or invalidate API and also refetching stuff. So it really helps to making the CRUD operation. We in the next days the default was the fetch, but we are not using this and we are using the Redux toolkit query. It is like really helpful. And for the UI component, we use the material UI, and we use the theming from the material UI. So this is kind of core library that all of the components came from the material UI. Next is the castle library. Like this is one of the most important library because it provides us a role-based access control. Since I previously mentioned, like we have identity access management system as well, like we can share our resource to the other person, other organization, other teams, like other general architecture follows. So having those functionality it is required, like if I'm able to access to uh, I'm able to authorize to access some of the resource, like am I able to upload my cluster to the uh, Meshery, and those sort of permission user also can control within the org, but we have to show in the UI based on the what permission the user have. And the castle is really helpful. We have some sort of the permission, we track those in the spreadsheet, and we have to do some changes in the spreadsheet, and it will generate the keys, and it automatically validate the if the user has the permission or not. And if in the UI if you see any disable button, then it makes sense that you don't have the permission to access and click those buttons. That's why you saw the disabled button. It is not kind of bug. And next was the RJSF. So in our UI, we have a lot of forms. So RJSF makes it easy to create the form. We have to just make some JSON schema and the UI schema, and it makes both the thing, and it will show the form to the UI. In some places, we use the material UI form as well, and the RJSF form as well. And and in our UI, we saw a lot of data tables to organize our information. And for the tables, we use the MUI data table library, and it it makes it really easy to filter, search, and pagination operation to do on the table. The next one was the playwright. It is like the standard end-to-end test. For the test, we use the playwright. And the Sistent and the schema, it they are interesting because those library we are like it's our own library. We are not depending on other contributor and not like other maintainer. We on maintaining those libraries. So this is our own layer 5 and the Meshery repository. And this one was the standard folder architecture we follow. We use the Next.js page router. Yeah, it is old currently, like the app router was the latest, but we are on the old file structure. Like we have the API to store API and all of the assets, components. Components is the major, like we all define all of our components there. We have the API and the RTK query both. We are migrating this API to the RTK query. Currently in the API, we fetch from the Axios library. Our goal was to remove this API and use only the RTK query for all of the fetching operation. Next is the pages that in UI we store all of the pages, like what pages are there in our UI, we define there, and that pages directly use that components for getting the component. here is a store like the Redux store, all of the information for the Redux store we store there. Here is the theme, like all of the theming we defined here. Yeah, this is general architecture, general folder structure we use in the Meshery UI. And we have a couple of other projects like the Sistent and the schema. We are going into there. Okay, now the Sistent. So why we need the Sistent of creating our new repo and use in the Meshery UI. So Sistent is like the single source of truth for UI. It means like we have a bunch of different repos, 4 or 5 repos, and we want that we are not duplicating ourselves, like defining one component in each other places. So that's where system came into place, like define any component in the one places and use it in all over other repos to in different repos. So the basic example was the theming. If we want to be consistent in with our all of the project, then the one of the thing is the theme, like how the Mesri will look. It should be like consistent with all other project. Like we heavily use this capel green color all of the place. So where this come came from, we don't want to define in the 10 other different places. And let's suppose in future we have to change those two color to the red color, then we have to do a lot of changes. We have to go to the 1,000 different place where we define this color, and we have to change those in the other places. So that's why system came into picture. We are going to define theme in one places, and all of our repository have to follow the consistent approach. It is like the npm package. We have to install that package to our UI, and we can get all of the information, all of the components that we define in the system. Like here you can see we define the theme, and we can access the theme, standard theme we have in the brand guide, where we define all of the theming, that how we tokenize our theme, and how can we are compatible with the light mode, dark mode, all of the stuff. So behind the scene, Sistent use the MUI Material UI library. So we are currently in the Material UI version 5 in the Sistent, and we are going to migrate those to the latest version as well. And like one of the example for those Sistent component was, let's suppose if I want to make the skeleton component, and so Sistent basically uh, get those, not Systent was not like create those components from scratch. It behind the scene use the material library. So it import the skeleton component from material UI library and exporting to the other UI. Like the assistant work is like the producer. It produce the our UI component. So, and if there is one still in the skeleton component, if you want to do some change, and if we want to make like the default animation as a wave animation, then we can make changes in that system, and it reflects all of the projects uh, that use that skeleton component. So we have to do only one place change, and it reflect in all other places. So that's where system is really powerful for us. And it's supposed it use the TypeScript latest one. So we have the strong typing types defined there. So, and Assistant is also in the React ecosystem. So all of the, it is like the mini React project, and we support the Node.js 16, 18, 20, all of the Node.js. And here is the file structure of the Assistant. So we, as we discussed, we define the themes, and if we want any icons, then we define icons here, and the we can modify any icons, and so it will change in the all of the places that we are using. We define some of the default hooks and colors, and the base directory was used for like the copy pasting thing. Like we get those base component from the material UI and exporting to the other UI. So, and in the custom, where we have a lot of our custom code written, like it is really long directory, and we have a lot of custom component, like the data table. We, let's suppose we talk like the, we have some layout for the tables, and all of our consumer will see same table structure for. So that's where we put all of the component in the custom directory, and we have a Redux setup there as well. And the schemas is used for we use the RJSF for the forms, and the schemas came to the picture. Like in the RJSF, we required to create the JSON schema and the UI schema. So we define those RJSF schemas into the here directory, and all of the types that we have in the components that we define in the types directory. Yeah, that was all for the Sistent. And now we move to our next big directory was schema. So schema is like the little bit of, it requires some of the knowledge, not within the UI, but also it required some of the knowledge in other field. Like the schemas repo was majorly not built with the JavaScript, not built with the TypeScript, not built with the Go. And so we have to know only two things, like the how we are able to code into JSON, how we are going to change the JSON schema and the OpenAPI YAML files. So we required two kind of knowledge, like what how to contribute to the JSON and how to contribute to the YAML, and we good to go with the contribute to the schema. So like in the Sistent, we have the single source of truth for all of the UI. So it is like one place UI change and it will reflect all of other places. Similar way, schemas is useful for having a single source of truth for front end and back end logic. So let's suppose I have to create any core construct, like the in our Messery, we have a design. You can go in the designer mode and create any design that it considers as a design. So what are the properties that are defined in this design? So we define that in the schemas repo, and like in the front end and back end, we have to know like what are the properties that the design have. So we have to define in the JSON schema, and you can see like here we have this is a file structure for the schemas repo, where you have the schemas construct. These are like the core construct, and we have some of the versions like the v1 alpha, v1 alpha 2, v1 alpha 3. We are following like the Kubernetes sort of version. So v1 beta 1 was the latest version, and in which we define some of the JSON and the YAML files. So in the schemas repo, we have to allow only change those JSON and the YAML file, because all of the other code will be auto-generated. In the schemas, we have like the Go code generator and the TypeScript code generator. So we change in the JSON and the YAML file, and it will auto-generate those Go and TypeScript code. And so we go to the design.json, and in we design, we have like what are the default properties of design, what are the, if design was stored in the database, then how design will look. So we define those of the core construct in the JSON file, and the open API file was useful for like the, if we have any endpoints like the get design, update design, and the post design, those are the common design, common any CRUD operation. So we define those in the YAML file. It is required for being the schema driven for the backend as well. Like we are able to know in the backend like what we going to expect from the schema, from the API payload. Those stuff is really powerful. And being the schema driven, like we are able to achieve a lot of things, like the default RTK query generation, default like the API docs generation. Currently, we not fully schema driven though, so we are planning to being the schema driven completely. And in the schema, we are generating two types of code. Like one is the Go code, goal in the Golang code. So it is used for the backend. So the our message server will consume those Go code, and it uh, it doing the operation on that. And the TypeScript was used for having the type safety with the front end, and also it generate the object so we can be the schema driven in the UI. So we have a script that run in the schemas file and it will generate those types. So there are some standard rules, like in the JSON schema, we define name as a nouns, and in the Open API file, we define as a verbs as a noun. And the main goal was like not hard code and decoupled our logic into the separate places. If let's suppose I have to change in the future design name with the pattern name and some other name, then I don't want to go to the 10,000 different places and have to change. If we have the schema driven, then we can change the design to the pattern here in the properties here, and it will change in the front end, back end, and all of other places where we use that word as a design. So this schema driven approach was really powerful there. Okay. Okay, so let me share some of the resource, like some of the contributing guide and some of the repos link that I provided here, and also what is the future plan for us. So for UI, we are really outdated in the dependency. Like we are currently in the Next.js 12 and React 17, and the latest version was Next was 15 and the React was 19. So we are, I guess, 5 to 5 years old. So we have to migrate those. We also use the JavaScript, not TypeScript in Meshery UI. So we want TypeScript support as well. And also, like we are currently in the Node.js 20 and the latest version was the 22. And also we want to migrate our XEOs to RTK query. Currently we use the both, and we want to have the RTK query only. And also like adding new test cases, we don't have the much robust end-to-end test, so we want to in the UI. So any new folks who want to contribute to the here, they can always welcome to lead any of this point, and we gave that leverage and give the opportunity to any new contributor if they found like capable of finishing any of the stuff and having small contributor to there, then it really welcoming. Okay, so that was all. And before ending that, let's go through one demo of how the schema driven approach will work with the Meshery UI. So it is a little bit of the advanced concept, so that's why I picked those things. So it will make you clear like how, also it will, if you understand like how to be a schema driven, then all of the other concept like how to contribute to the Sistent, and that will be clear because we there is a similar approach we follow to install the Sistent in the schemas. So this is a Messery playground. This is playground.messery.io, and in the settings we have one model that we can create our model and import our model. So I'm just saying like how we can be the schema driven. So if you are not able to understand like what is the model and what are the other things, so ignore those stuff currently. So in this model was schema driven. So like the model name, the model display name, all of the stuff, like here we have some of the validation, some of the description, some of like, so all of the thing is come from the schemas repo. So like what is the default category, we have a lot of categories and a subcategory here. So all of the things is defined
Sorry
in
to
the
interrupt,
schemas.
Amit. Do you mind zooming in a bit, little? Someone is
Yeah.
requesting.
Yeah,
Just one click or two.
yeah, yeah, what's the problem? Yeah, zoom. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So we have the default categories and subcategories uncategorized. And for our demo, our goal was like making the default shape as a circle to change with the other shape. Currently, all of this model came from the schemas. like the primary color, secondary color, all of the came from the schemas, and we want to change this circle to any of other like the star. So it will, if we change in the one place, then it should be change in the other places, like we consume this default shape in the backend for the logic validation and the other different places. So it should be changed in all of the place. So that's our goal. And let's me first spin up like the Meshery UI. So for Meshery UI, we can simply run the make UI command and it will spin our UI. And for spinning the server, we have the make server command that will boot our server. So you have to install some of the dependency first before running those UI in the server. So server was default run in the 9081 port, and the UI will run in the 3000 port. So currently we are in the 3000 port, and it will run the same UI. Okay. So now, let me zoom a little bit. So this is a code where our code for the model, like we saw this model, the code for this model was written in the Meshery UI, and this is a Meshery UI code base. And here in the side, we have a code for the schemas. So in the URL staple in the Meshery, we have a model category, I guess. Yeah, in the model category, we are getting the default of the category from the schemas repo. Okay, where it is come from? It is came from a layer 5 schemas package. Okay, this is our own package, like we have the Sistent as well, similarly, and we have the schemas. So we have a two package, that schemas and the Sistent, for that is our own repository. So first let me install schemas repo that is in my local directory. Like currently this schemas in my local build system, and I want to consume it in our Meshery UI. So currently I'm in the Meshery, and if I go to the UI directory, then I have to add those packets. So npm I and the relative path for this schemas repo. So for that schemas. So this is a relative path that the schemas repo that present, and if I enter, then it will change this schemas path to my actual path that are present locally. You can do same with the Sistent as well. So it will it will redirect to the local Sistent package. So in the schemas, let just go. We have to find that model schema, because we are going to change with the model schema. So schemas construct v1 beta 1, because that was the latest, and majority of the construct we define there. Oh, we got the model one. And in the JSON, we define all of the things that what is the model. So if we walk through this model.json, yeah, if we go through this model.json file, then we define all of the stuff, like what is the model and what are the properties and what are the validation, and like the name, display name, description. And our goal was change the default shape. So let me search the shape. Oh, I got this in the metadata properties. And let me check here in the shape. Okay, properties, metadata, properties, shape. Okay, I guess we are in the right path, and it reference from the other JSON file. So the core.json file is like, we define that in the one places we want some of the things that reuse it. So we define there, and just let me go there. And in the core.json, if we go to the shape, then, oh, we got it. Like here we define the default shape as a circle. Let me change with the star. Okay. And now what should we do? So for that, we change in the JSON file, but how are we going to consume in the UI? Because we are not directly getting those JSON files. So we have to generate first our TypeScript file from the JSON file. So we have the TypeScript code for that, and there is one script that run and do changes in the TypeScript file. So you have to run like make build ts. So it will generate some of the template file, and also it will modify the TypeScript file based on the changes that you did in the JSON or the YAML files. And if you see like what are the changes they made, and they change a lot of places like circle to star. So wherever we use the circle as a default, it will change to the star as a default shape, like we can see. And now if we are here and we already installed our schemas, we have the right path for the schemas repo, then it should change in the here. Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh, it changed the default of the star. So this is a way we can change like the primary color, secondary color, and I'm sure that it will definitely do changes in the backend. In the backend, if we don't pass any shape, and in the backend it auto generate the shape, then it will default change to the star. So one place change and it change to the multiple places. So that's where schema is really powerful. And let me go through one more example, like the OpenAPI file. So in the OpenAPI file, we generally use for define the endpoints, like if I want to register any model, then this is endpoint, and what are the properties and the payload that required for that endpoint. And like we define some of the properties like the description and version, and the some of the types of the importing the body, and we can use those things into the UI, and all of the things are capable to use in the UI. So we have to do change in the here, and it will reflect all of our UI code. So yeah, that was the demo for the how to be a schema driven for UI. And I hope it also you got the crux of like how we can contribute to the Meshery UI as well. So yeah, thank you. Any question? I think we are out of time as well.
Thanks a lot, Amit. Yep. So, folks, that was all for the demonstration on UI. If you have any question now, you can simply unmute and ask Amit. He will be, happy to answer them. You also can do the same through chat. In particular, I have one question for Amit, and that's why are we migrating from Axios to RTK query? And that's from Vikram. So, Vikram, will you like to clarify more, or it's just this question, like just this?
Yeah, so there are a lot of benefit we got from the RTK query, and in the Axios we have to define a lot of states, like the loading state, and if we got any error, and if we want to refetch the any query, then we have to again wrote logic for that, and default casing was missing in the Axios. So RTK query makes it a lot easier to make those thing, and there are some problems with the Axios, and it solves RTK query like within 1 or 2 lines of code, and it really fast, and we don't have to do a lot of state management there. This is more a very one good benefit with that we got from the RTK query. And also we, for folks who want to work, we are migrating some of the things in our UI, and we track those in our sheet, the spreadsheet. There we track all of the who is the assignee, what component is already migrated, and we can so anyone who want to work, they can comment here, they can ping me on the Slack, so we can assign those component. These are like the open to for anyone to contribute, and this requires not a lot of complexity. It is like the simple, like here is for the schema driven, we just I gave the demo, we have to do same for the other components, and we good to go for those stuff. And we already migrated a lot of component to the RTK query, and some of are left. So yeah.
Hello.
Any other question?
Yeah, Shivam here. So, RTK query is something similar to the React query.
Yeah, yeah. It is similar to the React query, because the RTK query is, we don't have to install any new package for the React query. The RTK query comes with the default React toolkit. So that's why we use the RTK query, but it is similar to the what React query gives us benefits. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a hand raised from Liben, and so I wonder if Liben will be
Yeah.
muting to.
Liben.
Am I audible?
Yeah. You are, please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, Amit. First of all, I would like to start from there. I feel like I know more about Meshery. So it's not a question, but I want to say I've been working with Next 30, basically the latest version with the app process in even production apps. So I can definitely help on that regard if there's a need. I can help out there. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, so that will be really helpful, like the Next.js and React.js migration. So if you can uh, do some of the prepared docs, and like what are the step you will going to follow, like the migrating to the React Next version, what are the in the next 30, what the official Next.js enhance and support, and what changes in required in our Meshery repo, and create and sort of docs and sort of documentation, like how we are going to proceed with there. And if you're able to share those in our Meshery development meeting in that happen in the Wednesday, then and that will be really helpful, like if you, because we if we clear like how you're going to next is, then we can assign those issue to you, and you can carry forward after this migration, because these are like the next generation what's the major migration and required little bit of the code, more code changes, like the server side rendering also, and app router support. So if you can prepare the one docs, like how you, what are the requirement and how you're going to migrate those, then it will be really helpful. So we can, after that we can assign that to you. Yeah, it's same for anyone, like anyone wants to work on any other things, then they come up with the proper docs, like how you're going to do that, and after that we can talk with about that. Yeah.
Maybe by any chance, can I give any previous works or a template how the docs, what it should contain, or can I just go ahead and just write the state the benefits and what I think would be beneficial to put it in the doc? Would that be okay, or are there any templates that I can use?
Yeah. Okay.
I think, Liben, you are not quite audible. Can anyone confirm? Amit, can you confirm?
Okay, what I said was like, are there any previous made documents that I can reference, or is it okay if I just go ahead and just write down the states, the benefits, and things like that?
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Vivek.
yeah, so if you like to follow a format of a design spec, you can simply refer to a post that I'll be sharing with you in the public Slack channel. So we have a template for design spec. You can follow that, or it's totally fine for you to go through a scratch. Like I've been creating a docs from the very scratch, so that will totally be fine. But like from point of view of like what you should be including, so maintainer Amit already described like couple of like that should be in a format that's understandable by majority of the folks. So and the main points you should be including in that docs. So I think just that. All right, thanks a lot, Liben. We have a couple of more folks with questions. So yeah, now would be the time you can quickly unmute and let us know.
Hey, Amit, Siddhant here. Thanks for the explanation. Quite a lot to take in, honestly. I have two questions. Firstly, like the photo that you're showing, I think I can help in the Next.js upgrade and the TypeScript support. I'm still learning about the repository, so I'm just saying what I think. But one thing about the TypeScript support I wanted to ask that uh, can we raise PRs file wise? Like I have completed 2 or 3 files and I'm migrating into TypeScript, and I raise a PR, or do I have to raise a PR for all the files at once? Just asking.
Yeah, so for TypeScript support, the things that in the with the go the right approach was like first PR was like only the support for both TypeScript and the JavaScript at the same time. It is just like installing some of the library for the TypeScript and having the support for both the simultaneous work of the JavaScript and TypeScript both. And after that, gradually we can migrate other components. We will it will not like required to migrate all JavaScript to TypeScript in the one PR, because it will be complex to review those PR. So we can go with the like first was the having support for the TypeScript, and after that support for other components and the global components like the Redux store or the RTK query. Those components that we use majorly, we will going to this forward. Like that's why I'm saying, like if you want to work in the TypeScript support, then just see in our Meshery folder structure and what makes sense to go first and what makes sense to put in the last. So if we come up with those uh, ideas, then that will be really helpful to follow one approach, and it will be really easy to track the progress for the migration. So the chances of failure was really less by following those approach.
Yeah, thanks. One last question. You showed how the UI in the schemas repository are like they are connected. The data is transferred by using the dot dot slash schemas in the JSON. How does it happen on the website? Over here we use local hosts, so it's we are working. But how does it happen on the website? Okay.
Yeah, so for that, uh, let me share. We have the schemas repo and we have the Sistent repo. So we have npm package that publish into the npm JS library, npm JS, and using which we consume in our other UI. Like if we search here Sistent, then we got the layer 5 Sistent package, and we consume it from the npm side. So it will bundle up our repository and it published to the npm site, and we can use, like you see, all of the layer 5 depend package was ours, and we consume it from the npm library. Yeah, that was a nice question. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Understood.
Yeah, so for the local development, you have to both clone the repo locally, and you have to change the relative path to the local. Yeah. Any other question?
There's just one question from Katie that may not be on the topic that we're discussing, but for LFX deadline, I think we'll be updating that page that we have in programs page, particularly. We'll be updating that as and when like we have updates, Katie. So hopefully that answers your question. Does anyone have any more question on Meshery UI or any general question on UI or schema that we are discussing right now? Please feel free to go ahead and ask that. We'll be taking a couple more before we wrap this call.
Okay, looks like we got all of the question.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Amit. We will be posting this recorded session of the training and also the slides very shortly after this call.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
thanks for being last of the meeting. Like I saw when I presenting, like 28% was attending, and like night now also 28. So it is good, like people not got bored and not left the meeting. Yeah, thanks for having here.
thanks a lot, Amit. So yes, folks, that was all. We have been doing this contributor training session for the past couple of weeks, and just like we discussed UI, we also covered CLI, then E2E testing in UI using Playwright, and any number of other topics. I'll be sharing with you that schedule where you can track those sessions, and if you like to refer to the recorded, meeting, you can do that through this GitHub link. Let me quickly put that in chat. Next week too, we are planning for some training sessions, and I'll be sounding off when we have update on that. But for today, that was it. If you did not yet participated in the activity that we are having, and that basically is getting your first pull request merged before you get off this particular call, please do. You simply can take inspiration from the existing open pull request, and that's it. You simply will have to create a pull request in a specific directory and include public information about you. That's all. Let me quickly share that too in the chat. You also can find all the links that we shared in this Google Docs. That's the meeting minutes. Again, that link too has been shared a couple of times in the chat, and I just shared it right now in the chat. We also talked about various meetings that you can be part of. Let's quickly go through that once again. Yes, so on Thursday, that is today, we are having this newcomers meeting. On Monday, we have sites meeting focused on only sites and Sistent and any UI UX. On Wednesday, we have Meshery development meeting where we talk about Meshery, like cloud native, its roadmap, and any number of other things. On second and fourth Thursday, we have build and release meeting where you can talk about CI automations that's happening around in here. Again, you don't have to worry about any of these meeting timings. You simply can subscribe to the calendar. I'll be dropping that in chat. You also can, as you scroll down, you will be able to see their respective Slack channels where the discussions are held. Also, the meeting minutes like this, you will also find them linked just in this particular page. So I hope that was helpful. With that, I would like to once again say thank you, and I'll see you on, on next meetings. But till then, bye everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.